morning, everyone. It's really my great pleasure to be here today. I'd rather be here than across the street at the UN building because it's just insane there. As I was listening to the first panel, I heard one of the great panelists said that it's so important for kids to listen to the water and from the sound of the water to make music. And I think that's what we are trying to do. I think we listened to the water. Not only we listened to the water, we carried the water on our heads for miles and miles. I don't know about you, but I grew up in Tehran, and I used to stay with my grandfather in the summers, and we used to go miles and miles to get water on our heads. So I remember that. But I think as a world, as governments, public, private sector, we listened, and now we have to make music. And the music we make is the implementation of all these goals, and it's the music that we make together. So what an amazing saying. There is so much energy, there's so much positive energy around, there's so much commitment, dedication. It's truly contagious of how we've all come together to solve these big issues. You know, for 3 decades, we've been talking about them. And we've been waiting for somebody else to solve them. The private sector looks at the UN and the NGOs and the governments and says, it's your problem. Disease, hunger, lack of education, social unrest, youth unemployment, Ebola, your problem. But if you look at it, governments, NGOs, the UN, we create about $3 trillion a year. The private sector, 30. Meanwhile, all the social issues have been left to the hands of governments to deal with. But these are our social issues. These are not the only social issues for the governmental entities to do. How do we together go from crisis reaction to crisis prevention? That's what these goals are about. You know, every morning when I wake up to what we call the UN Operation Crisis Center. And I read about the crisis of Ebola. One tiny virus, tiny. We think we are humans, we got innovation, we got technology. One tiny virus can get to us. And that's an organic virus. What if it was a technology virus? What if there was a little virus that was sent to the electric grid of every country and brought all the electricity down, the hospitals down, public transport down? What do we do about that? One tiny virus. We are all connected. You know, we've gone from being Homo sapiens to, I think, Homo mobilis, because without our iPhones, we don't really exist, to a connected sapien. We are a connected world. You know, 20th century was an amazing century. We had 2 world wars, a Cold War, we sent a man to the moon, we had antibiotics, we had Elvis. But the most important thing about the 20th century was the creation of the internet. We got connected. The world opened up. Somebody asked the question, why didn't we do this 15 years ago? Because we didn't have the internet. Because we didn't know how the world was. Some of us knew. Some of us, in some countries, if we had a fax machine, we would go to jail for 15 years. Some of us, in some countries, if we had an internet access, we would be in prison for 5 years. The world has opened up. Technology, innovation, a lot of the social democratic movements is because of what happened. We got connected. We opened up this world. Now we can see. Now we understand. And then there's a question. We understand. We have nice, fancy goals. They look great on the wall. And we're going to leave this conference today or tomorrow. We go back to our lives. What do we do next? Are we going to be different? I was telling you about what I wake up to. Every day as the CITO of the UN, I fail. I fail miserably. Because I look at the social issues of the world. I look at Ebola and I say, could I use technology to know a month earlier that it was going to be an Ebola breakout? What can I do? Who can I partner with to know a month earlier? If I know today that 2 inches less rain in a country in Africa will create unrest in 3 years, would create drought, what would we do about it? It's all about technology. It's about partnership. Because you have the public sector, great innovation, great resources. Look at what they've done. Look at the advancements in technology. Look at nanotechnology, alternate fuels. Look at organic bio. Look at the energy, the focus on energy that they are doing, healthcare, education. But what can we do to use all of that innovation for the good of human life? What does it take? To take all those resources and focus on hunger, human rights, education, climate change. How do we do that? I think that's what the goals are about. For us to come together as a public, private sector, NGOs, and talk about the big social issues. Look at the issue of human trafficking, child trafficking, human rights. Do you know that 80% of child trafficking is done on the internet? 80%. Did we know when we created the internet, did we know that 80% of kids are going to get trafficked? Whose responsibility is it? Is it mine as the CITO of the UN? Or is it a joint responsibility, public-private sector? Because with technology, with innovation, comes great power, great progress, but we also have the side effect of it. You look at e-waste, you travel to India, you travel to China, you see that our little iPhones and our servers and our switches and our computers and our TVs, all full of mercury and lead, being dismantled by little kids, by pregnant women. And the poison is just seeping to the ground and to the water. Whose responsibility is it when you look at the issues of climate change, issues of the environment, issues of the ocean, the coral reef, deforestation? Whose responsibility? I think we have come together to say it is a joint responsibility. If we are going to address these issues, we have to begin to put our focus and our resources in innovating responsibly, in looking at all the issues that are confronting us, all the issues of hunger, disease. 850 million people go to bed hungry every night. The UN can only feed 50, 60 million. What happens to the rest of them? How do we resolve that issue? Meanwhile, 1% of the world has 40% of the wealth. The income distribution is a big, serious issue. So the private sector would be a tremendous partner to government, tremendous partner to the UN, because it is through innovation, it is through science, it's through investment in resources, because there is money to be made on resolving social issues. Because when people don't have jobs, 50% youth unemployment globally. We had a wonderful, eloquent lady talking from Kenya who talked about the youth. 50% are unemployed. And what if we get them jobs? They have an income. They can become a consumer. If you look at this is where the benefit to the private sector comes about. And at the same time, we have addressed the goal. We've addressed the social issue. So I have a dream. I have a dream that one day I wake up as a CITO of the UN, and I look at one of those reports, and instead of reacting to crisis, we can predict them. We can resolve them. We have the resources, the intellect, the know-how in resolving those issues, resolving it together, and moving forward. And I know you guys, through your deliberation today and going forward, will start this movement. Because Mother Teresa said, you know, every day we work so hard, and at the end of the day, it feels like a drop in a bucket. But let me tell you, it is those drops in the bucket that create the ocean. And it is those drops in a bucket that create clean oceans. Thank you very much.